All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Darian Talks UTSA. Um, man, it has been a crazy couple of weeks on Twitter. It's been a blast on Twitter lately as we get ready to go into the season. Yeah, loads and loads to talk about. Make sure you guys get your comments and your questions and your thoughts in. We'll see how long we go today. I don't know if we'll have a big audience today because July 4th is tomorrow and folks are probably going to be traveling and things like that. So I contemplated doing one today, but I said, why not? There's so much going on Twitter. There's a lot going on. So I said, why not? Let's go ahead and give it a try. So yeah, make sure you get your comments and stuff in. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. If you like what we'll be going over today and talking about today, and then also always drop a like so we can get more people in the community to come in and join us every Wednesday at the same time. And then you can also, if you want to really, really support the show, you can join as a member. That'll be helpful as well. But now, without further ado, let's talk about the main topic that got Twitter and everybody going yesterday. I posted a question. I posed a question yesterday on Twitter, and basically, I was talking about UTSA marketing and just kind of having a marketing discussion. And I posed um, the question mostly because I wanted to talk about it. Started from like season attendance and what do we expect? How many people do we expect? I think I looked at some data and we were around 28,000 and a half per game last season. And I was just thinking like, all right, we don't have Frank Harris. We lost a lot of guys that were household names. What will this upcoming season look like in regards to in regards to attendance? And a lot of folks were basically saying, a lot. That I got a lot of feedback on it, and they were talking about, the marketing's not good, the economy's not good, and all of this stuff as to reasons why. And there was a whole bunch of talks and a whole bunch of comments, and I think some folks got into it in here, talking about some of this stuff. But yeah, when I was kind of looking at it, it made me kind of think like the marketing situation is it doesn't seem great. And I got a little bit of detail on what the marketing situation at UTSA is currently, and that the staff and the folks who are responsible for that, they're under resources, they're short staffed 100%, um compared to probably some of your bigger schools and things like that. They don't get paid very well either. So I'm sure that that probably has something to do with some of this stuff as well. But there's, to me, is a lot of factors. I am not personally in San Antonio every single day, so I don't know exactly what the sentiment is in the city. But I've seen from all of the folks. Let's see, we had 29 comments or 29 replies from people on that particular subject, and then we had another 18 on the attendance alone. So what that tells me is folks are pretty passionate about, or they're pretty opinionated about the attendance, how we support the program, and then also what the administrative staff is doing at UTSA, and if they're able to attract folks, right? I personally think that there probably should be better efforts. I'm not in the city to see the billboards, but whenever I look at what I see on Twitter and some of the emails that I get that's talking about marketing and stuff, I think it's one thing to come out and it's one thing to post a tweet asking people to buy season tickets. It's one thing to post a tweet asking people to make sure you show up to games and things like that. But what I really feel like it may be lacking, and I would appreciate you guys for those of you who are living in San Antonio to correct me if I'm wrong here, if I'm not seeing it or something like that. But I feel like there is not enough interactive engagement with the fans and supporters um, to really cultivate cultivate the following and motivate folks to come out to games, game in and game out. I've seen a lot of folks talking about the schedule. Well, I don't like the schedule. Who wants to come out and see UTSA versus Kennesaw State or something like that? Well, the attraction should be UTSA in theory. The attraction, and I understand, bigger opponents are going to bring more eyes and things like that, and it's going to be a little bit more intriguing and that sort of thing. But when you look at a UT and you look at some of the more established schools, they pack the house no matter who the opponent is, right? And obviously we're not there, and I completely understand that. So I'm not necessarily comparing us apples to apples to that situation. But whenever I was looking at the comments about the schedule, in my opinion, I'm just like, well, so what is it? Are you there to see UTSA? Is it opponent is your attendance or your presence at a game, is it opponent dependent? It seems like it is for a lot of folks. There was also a lot of talk about the Alamo Dome. Folks don't like going down to the Alamo Dome, and it's funny because there are some really passionate people about there are really passionate folks who are really in support of us staying in the Alamo Dome and doing our thing in the Alamo Dome. But then, like, whenever we have a discussion like this, a lot of folks are saying, "Yo, it'll be easier if we could have an on-campus stadium because it's easier for local folks to come to games and things like that." So um, it's weird. I'll be interested to hear from you guys in the chat on, like, are you pro Alamo Dome, or do you think we should have something maybe smaller, but that's on campus so we can get that thing packed out? I'll be interested to hear from you guys on that because I liked playing in the Alamo Dome. I liked the perfect weather per se, but at the same time, that dome is really it sounds weird whenever that dome is not rocking and it's not packed. Whenever that dome is empty and that the thing can seat 60 something thousand folks. We got the top bowl closed out, and we're trying to focus on the lower bowl, but sometimes even that doesn't get filled up enough. So anyway, I think that there is just more to be desired. And here's the thing for me, and the reason I sort of pose those questions, to be completely honest, my main thing there, my main thing is to try to see if we can solution some of this, right? Like that's more so like why I pose those questions, not to just be in a situation where I'm complaining and just adding to the noise. No, I truly feel like we have these problems all the time, and they're just problems that people gripe about. And like these folks within the program at UTSA who are shot callers, who are part of the marketing team, who are part of or the fundraising team and things like that, they don't talk about or address any of this stuff publicly ever. You don't really hear these people talk about the actual problems that they are having, and talking and interacting with us as supporters, and understanding what we want, what we would like to see in that situation. And I think it's a fair thing to pose. I'll tell you this, like UTSA's Twitter is relatively small. And I think if you make enough noise and you come up and we can kind of coordinate and talk through some of these problems, you can't tell me that there's not people that's sitting in the halls of of the administration. You can't tell me there aren't people that's sitting there looking at some of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? So like I think solutions instead of whining about problems, I think is the way we should go. I see the chat is starting to fill up with some questions here or some comments here. Let's start getting into some of these. Rob says, "Hey, yo, what's going on, big dog?" Kermit says, "Do you think the new Macomb Society will be successful?" I don't know if it'll be because what is it? So like if you notice, the language around some of that stuff is relatively vague on what that money's really going to be used for, right? Like until we understand and know, like what that money is going to be used for specifically, um I don't know. That's my thing. I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm not like saying that they're doing anything malicious with it or anything like that, but at the end of the day, I think the resource management, in my opinion, from the outside looking in, has not been great. I was asking a question to somebody today, like, how much are we outsourcing work, right? Like, instead of hiring a team of listen, more expensive. It's always more expensive to, um, hire somebody full time to come in and do some of this stuff, right? Because there's a whole benefits aspect of this and all of that stuff. We could outsource some of this stuff if we're low on money, right? On some of this work. I know some aspects of it are outsourced, but I mean it's something that we should consider. Let's see. James looks at how's your day going? You know what? It's going all right. Work was a pain today. Let's be very clear about that. But I appreciate you for asking that. Marcus says Alamo Dome needs to go. See, and I mean, like I'm for the Alamo Dome, but if it's a problem for enough people, and like here's my thing, I am all for more people attending games. So if that means we're not in the like if that means more folk will get higher attendance in a maybe a smaller stadium on campus somewhere, I'm all for that, right? But if we're not going to get a small state, if we're not going to get attendance there either, then we might as well stay at the Alamo Dome. Eric says, need that dome AC after several hours of tailgate. I'm with you on that one, buddy. Marcus says 45K stadium on campus, open air for some Air Force flyovers. Open air. I see what you're saying. Gio says, y'all want an on-campus stadium till we're playing September games at 100 degrees. I feel you there. I feel you there. That's the main topic everybody's been talking about with Texas State, right? The main topic. My man Hassan says Alamo Dome is perfect. Melissa says the Alamo Dome is exactly where we need to be. Okay. We got some pro Alamo Dome folks here in the house. Hassan says if we get money, move us up either to the SEC or Big 12 already. You know what, Hassan? I want to comment on this. Based on all the things that I've heard and everything that's been indicated to me by some folks who are in the know, we barely have enough money to be in the AAC. We barely, and I mean, listen, I don't think it's rocket science either, right? I don't think that's anything that people can't see from the outside looking in, right? Like from an NIL standpoint, we obviously can't compete with some of these big schools. We just can't. We can't compete with the top of our conference right now from an NIL standpoint, right? We're just now getting some of the things on campus that are on par with some of the things that other schools are able to get. Our resource management has not been great. I don't want to go into too much detail on that, but I just think we can do a lot better. And I also think that they need budget to bring people in that is going to be able to, scale some of these things to our highest capability. And I don't think we have that right now. But yeah, but like I said, for the bigger conferences, we're not ready for this one. So I can't see us like maybe on the field we could be ready for this. And I mean, we probably won't be ready for the SEC ever, but Big 12 is not what it used to be. Maybe on the field in some years or something we can get there. But if we don't fix some of the stuff that's happening in the offices of UTSA, it's going to start showing itself in the product that we put on the field, on the track, on the court, so I worry about it. Melissa says if we get a stadium on campus, think about that Texas heat, then you'll have less people going to the games. I don't disagree with that. It's a good point. Gio says, are marketing efforts lackluster or are there issues at hand regarding marketing or there are other issues at hand regarding marketing for games? Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of both, man. I think, I just don't know. Like, for example, there was just a lot of stuff that people pointed out. They talked about whenever they go into Walmarts and HEBs that there's hardly any there's hardly any UTSA gear, or there's more like UT or A&M gear and more even North Texas stuff around in UTSA, which I think is a problem. But it also shows that we probably don't have money to even produce the product to be able to put in some of these places, right? And then also, like I said, I just feel like more engagement with the fans um, would be beneficial. Now, I don't know what that looks like. I am not a marketing expert in that way, but I just feel like people on Twitter, through people I've talked to, I feel like folks feel a disconnect, and that's what the sentiment is from everybody that I've been hearing from. Eric says, I think the potential Spurs arena would help the area and bring more bars into the area. It could. It could. I think they're saying it's going to be in the middle of downtown. It could. It could. Do you think having a stadium on campus will make a difference when the students didn't even approve the increase to the student athletics fee? That's a really good point. I don't know. I don't know. But I will say that I think that if you did have, and to be fair, they say the students aren't the problem in terms of attendance, but I do think it would probably be best to have more student sections, honestly, if you could. But I'll tell you this, you wouldn't have problems getting students to games if something was on campus, because half the time you don't have anything to do anyway. So why not go to the game, get drunk, have a good time, tailgate, do your thing, right? I think regardless of how they voted, because them voting, anytime you ask somebody to vote and give money or anything like that, trust me, I've been trying to get sponsors and partners coming into this season. People aren't going to fork over money for no reason, and they're going to be very reluctant to do so. And I think you ask these students to approve stuff like that, it's going to be tough at a school like UTSA, to be honest. uh Helodi's runner says, we're weird city, there's too many football fans that only care for the Cowboys. Yeah, that's probably true. To be fair, I love the Cowboys, they're my boys. But I am also no longer a San Antonio native at the moment. Hassan says, when we get the new San Antonio Advanced Rapid Transit lines in 2027, the companies will invest for UTSA in the city of San Antonio. You know what? Um, Maybe so, but I gotta see it, man. I feel like they're the staple. Like, I feel like UTSA is not in bed with the staple companies the way they should be. It's like, how isn't how do we not have a huge partnership with HEB and having them, forking over a lot of their money that they donate to help with taxes? Like, how isn't that money coming into us, into UTSA? I mean, a significant amount. Like, I don't know, but I'd be curious to hear more about some of those bigger companies. Um, Kermit says UTSA hired Andy Paulson for fan engagement. Do you think that makes a big impact at all? Yeah, I definitely seen that. I hope that it does make an impact, but it all, like, you can hire these names and things like this, but it's all about the plan they put in place and how they deploy it. And does it resonate with the fans and the supporters? If it doesn't resonate with us and people who are supporting the team, what does what does that mean, right? What does that mean? They have had people that have been trying to do something with this stuff, but it isn't resonating with folks. That's the problem. Um, and we just have to see. Poe Ghost, what's going on, Poe Ghost? He says, sell the Institute of Texan Cultures for way more than it's worth to the Spurs. They'll pay. I'm taking 100 mil that will go to facilities everyone wants, including the dang indoor football field. Well, the practice pavilion or the indoor football field, however you want to call it, is already agreed upon, and we already have the money for that. So that's coming. But that 100 mil, I mean, I think that's a good point. That 100 mil would be great. It would be excellent. We could we can help with the facilities and stuff like that. But I also think staff is a huge thing that sort of goes overlooked. I mean, um, some of the things I heard today about what the marketing staff has been for UTSA. I mean, I don't want to share concrete details, but you could probably count on one hand how big that staff was. You probably won't have to use all your fingers, right? Um, and that's not great. That's not great. That you need a team doing that for an organization that's um trying to get more money, right? And trying to raise more money. And then you gotta get allies, not just the corporate allies as well. There's a lot of people, in my opinion. There's a lot of people that are out there talking UTSA and stuff like this who can be allies and advocates for some of the things that they're trying to go forth with. But I don't know if they do a good job at that either. I just don't know. Listen, I can tell you this: there are people who are trying on UTSA's behalf, 100%. But like the weird thing about it is, there's so many people that I've talked to over the last month or so that want to help and they want to do this, they want to do that, but they can't get a meeting scheduled with anybody from UTSA. They've never been reached out to. They've never been any of that, right? Any of that. And it's I don't know. It's a weird situation. I think we're missing some opportunity here. Carol, hello, Miss Carol. She says, "I've had season tickets since the inaugural season. I watched you play, Darian." Shout out to Carol. If the Alamo Dome goes, I hate to say it, but I'm out as a season ticket holder. Whew, whew. Strong words from Carol. Listen, I'm not. I personally prefer the Alamo Dome just because for me now being a spectator and even a player, to me, it feels a little more big time, number one. And then I'm sorry, but that the heat and or the controlled air condition in the stadium, I'm sorry, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. But to be fair, like I said before, if a on campus stadium means more butts in seats, I'm always gonna go. I would always lean toward that, but I don't know if it does. That's the thing. I don't know if it does. Seth says a true UTSA fan will go whether it's indoor or outdoor on campus stadium. On campus stadiums are easy to show for recruiting. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that, but I think you can't just because we're in Texas and how extremely hot it is. I can't blame someone for not wanting to go out and be overheated. I can't blame anybody for doing that. I honestly can't. Like, bro, it's hard to tailgate sometimes at those games because of the heat. I have to bring a towel every time because I'm just drenched in sweat. I have to almost wear a dry fit every time I go to one of those because I'm drenched in sweat. When I see you guys, um, for Kennesaw State game next month, I'm going to probably be drenched in sweat, but I'll be out there taking shots with you guys, putting the birds up and having a good time though. Gio says, shout out to UTSA Sosa Band for help making the games lit. Big part of why my family comes. Shout out to the UTSA Sosa Band. Go Cowboys, go. Shout out always. Son says, what's your thoughts on Dr. Campos's efforts with UTSA athletics so far during their time on campus? Ooh, this is a juicy question, and I'm going to answer it. Here's what I'll say. I have heard a lot. I've just heard a lot. I don't know her personally. I've never met her. I'll just comment because I don't know what she's doing to be able to judge her to properly evaluate her job. It's one of these things where, like, I think about it's easier to do something like that. Like, if you are like, if I'm a manager at my job and I have employees, direct reports, it's easy for me to evaluate their performance because I'm tuned into the strategy. I understand what they're doing, what objective they're trying to meet, so on and so forth. But what I'll say is that um, watching from the sidelines, I don't know if the efforts are doing enough. I can tell you this right now, there are a lot of people who are not on her how how can I put this? There are a lot of people who are not in favor of her efforts thus far. I can tell you that right now. Obviously, there's been some big wins. Let's be very clear about that, and I think she deserves credit for that and the execution on some of those things. But her and her husband, they make a good amount of money representing UTSA and doing their thing. I mean, she just got a new deal and things like that. Got an extension. I just think that you get paid all that money, but we're under resourced everywhere else. Um, and I understand some of the things that they have to do, but at the same time, why do the fans not feel connected to not all? I'm not saying this is for everybody, but a lot of folks do not feel connected to some of they don't feel connected to the journey that the folks in the office, her office is going on, right? It's just like these very vague things when they release something that's almost not well put together sometimes. I think there's no excuse for some of that. I think also her being this late to embrace, and I don't even know if it's an embrace yet, but she just publicly started talking about NIL this late, bro. NIL dropped and started in 2021? We 3 years behind, right? We're 3 years behind. And you just now start mentioning a couple of the collectives, right? Why is that? You have to be adapted. You have to show adaptability in that particular role. And listen, I don't feel bad about like talking about some of this stuff and voicing this stuff. That's the job. She's making $500,000. You're in sports. You're going to be critiqued from. Your job is going to be criticized and scrutinized from people sitting in their living rooms all day. And I just think there's more that can be done. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to go in on her too much, but I just think there's more that can be done 100%. No Name says, I believe our local media doesn't give a hard enough push. They put aside 5 minutes for UT, but 30 seconds for UTSA. They do a really poor job of pushing local sports in general. You know what? That's something that I noticed whenever I was there living in San Antonio also. But I also think a lot of that stuff, it comes down to relationships. Guys, I can tell you this right now, especially in the media space, relationships are everything. Relationships are everything. Obviously, coming down, like obviously those folks got bills to pay. So they know a lot of folks that are living in San Antonio have been UT fans for years. Older folks specifically because UTSA didn't have a football game or a football team. And you got to think about who's watching the news on television for the most part. It's going to be older folks who are probably UT fans as well. So like there's some of that comes into local TV and that type of stuff too. But my thing too is like, yeah, I do think if some of the relationships and connections were a little bit better, do I think that would get us a minute instead of 30 seconds or something like that? Absolutely. Absolutely. But that takes a collective effort from everybody, right? And I don't know how much of that is happening. Eric Cabrera says, having a live show pregame at the Dome will bring in more people to the games. You know what? I appreciate this, Eric, but I don't think I have that much influence that people will actually show up to see me. But yeah, I appreciate it. I do plan on doing some live. I don't know if I'll do a live show, but I do want to do sort of a gathering of this community at some of the tailgates throughout this year. I'm trying to work with some of the tailgates, but they'll DM back. They'll DM. They won't DM back and stuff like that. So I'm trying to get something set up so we can all get together at some point or a couple of times this season. I would love to do something like that. So we'll see. I'm trying to organize it, but I haven't got anything set in stone yet. Kermit says we need to focus on getting brand merch, for example, official Adidas jerseys into stores. Yeah, it could certainly help. All that stuff can help. Pogo says the number of stadiums I've been to support the program, outdoor beautiful stadiums, never full, usually because of the weather. The Alamo Dome is a godsend that's underappreciated. I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. Chose One says, I got a message from the director of ticket sales. He said there will be an event for season ticket holders before the season starts. Well, it should be. It should be. Yeah, of course. Of course. And he meant to say, I got an email. The problem is UTSA doesn't have a big enough fan base to fill 67,000. We barely max out 40 in attendance. So it's about 25. So it looks silly to me to have such an empty stadium. Yeah, I don't disagree with that piece of it. I don't disagree with that, but at the same time, I am with everybody too on like, I would much rather watch the games under in AC versus 100-degree weather personally. But I am not super opposed to an on-campus stadium either. I'm okay with either one. I just want people actually at the game. Seth says now if the Alamo Dome would do upgrades to the inside and maybe get a glass roof that could retract open but not make it look like a concrete box. I don't think that's happening. Unless we get like an NFL team that comes down to San Antonio. Kermit says, stay with me now. College game day at Alamo Dome tailgate, but with you and Alamo Audible. Wouldn't be bad. I'd be open to any of that. I'd be open to it. But like I said, I don't know if enough people would show up because of me. I think Alamo Audible has probably double or triple my audience. So we have to see. And Javi from UTSA Rivals. Yeah, Javi's my guy, man. I like Javi. And shout out to JJ. JJ got more followers than all of us combined. Said, what has happened to UTSA? What has to happen is UTSA has to beat Texas in order for people to take us seriously. Yeah, that's a tall order. I can tell you that right now. That's a tall order. Beating Texas, huh? Yeah, I don't know about that. But I'm glad we're playing Texas, and if we play them well, you never know. I'm gonna tell you something right now, though. That Texas State game, if we win Texas State, we beat Texas State, then I think you'll have the fan base connected, and it's going to bring about some momentum, especially if it's like a good game. You'll start getting more folks. Excuse me, Jesus. You'll start getting more folks to come into the games if we beat Texas State. That's always going to be a thing, especially this season, because the game will likely be a little bit more closer than it normally is, which, to be fair, they played as well last time. But, yep. Pogo says, don't get me wrong, I would still go to an off-campus stadium, no questions. I just like that 75 degrees, 100% agreed. JC says, UTSA should be in the mix on new downtown stadium. Make the Alamo Dome a demo. Make the Alamo Dome demo a fundraiser for NIL. There's a lot we should be doing, dude. There's a lot we should be doing. And I don't know. I just feel like the vagueness is setting people the wrong way, if I'm being completely honest, on some of this stuff. I did want to get into one thing from Twitter, and I hope some of you guys are here from Twitter. But I think my man, I actually don't know this guy, but I think Tom Rugg. Hey, shout out to him. He made a comment that really ticked some folks off. But he says a few reasons why I'm not renewing my season tickets this year is that the head coach allegedly took multiple interviews trying to leave UTSA. The out of conference schedule sucks this year. With that being said, I'll be going to UT Austin and Texas State game. And that seemed to upset some folks. So I wanted to kind of weigh in on his tweets with regards to this. Coach, I'll just say this. I don't think Coach Traylor is like, here's the thing. I'll go back to the question that I was asked about Dr. Campos's efforts. Here's what I'll say. Read the room. Coach Traylor didn't want to leave UTSA. He doesn't want to leave UTSA. No. But he'd be crazy not to look at other opportunities. Because how long has he been talking about NIL? Every single time they put a camera in front of his face. You think that's for no reason? You know, like Campos comes out just now recently over the last couple of months and start to actually talk about NIL publicly, like and sort of embrace it, right? Which is a new thing. She's never done that. I checked all the emails, the email correspondence that they've sent. I get them twofold. Never mentioned NIL as a letter from her, right? Now she does it. To me, you can read between the lines there and you can look at, okay, like when people say that she was late to the NIL train, I think evidence would suggest that she has been. And I think that's pretty clear. I don't see that as a rumor. I think it's almost, listen, I can't call it factual because I'm not in the room and I'm not asking her a question and she's not telling me exactly like, hey, I was late to the NIL train. But what I'll say is those situations, there are no coincidences. There are no coincidences at all. So I just think that the efforts overall in general from that office can be the fundraisers and all this stuff have been lackluster and not that creative. Like I see, like I said, I know UT is the cream of the crop and I happen to live in Austin, but y'all, if you just can see the effort and the stuff that these folks in UT do, and you can't leave and I know it's, like I said, it's Austin, it's a completely different situation. They're probably the best in the country at doing this, but you can't walk outside your house and not see something UT Longhorns just everywhere. And I don't know. I just want UTSA to do better with it. I'll leave it at that. I know I'm rambling on about that stuff, but it's important. Juan says, "What do you think? What do you think of the Sun Belt Conference being ranked as the top G5 conference? And what's the new roster update they hinted at today on social media?" The Sun Belt? They ranked the Sun Belt. Let me see. Let me look at the Sun Belt. That's interesting. It's the top G5 conference. Really? ULM. I mean, James Madison, Appalachian State, Troy. Okay. I mean, okay, they got that. Sun Belt's a good conference, but no, you look at they're a good conference. Yeah, I don't know. That to me is it doesn't help our playoff. It doesn't help our playoff situation. I'll tell you that much. Let's see. Runner Hype says, "Why build a stadium on campus now for it to be outdated 20 years from now? Save some money now, grow some support from city and alum sponsors. Then 20 years from now, we have a support for a campus or a stadium on campus." I like that. I like that a lot. 100%. I'm with that 100%. Yeah, we need to be established before we start doing that anyway. I like that 100%. Football question. Perfect. Ricardo says, what are we expecting from Different Harris this year? I'm hoping we get some big plays. playmaker, someone that teams are going to have to scheme around in terms of him being a lockdown player. And yeah, I hope he's a standout. That's it. I think anytime a player like this, or just any player in general, comes in with hype like this, you hope they live up to the hype, because it's a lot of pressure that's going to be on their shoulders 100%. And playing that position at UTSA, you're going to get tested a lot. Teams are not going to respect you, and things like that. Even with the recent success that we had, I think teams are going to start looking at us now and saying like, hey, they're a little bit vulnerable. They don't have Frank Harris throwing in the football. They don't have Trey Moore on the defensive line. They don't have Cam Alexander playing cornerback, right? So I just think that he's going to get tested. He's going to get tested a lot early, and I hope he answers the call. Who's the new D lineman that got admitted to UTSA today? I don't know his name, but I think it's the guy from Oregon that we talked about last week, if I had to guess. Chosen wants is Coach Traylor on the same boat as far as pushing the NIL? Oh, Coach Traylor has been pushing. Y'all just don't know. Coach Traylor, I can tell you, Coach Traylor is doing everything that he can. And I have this on very good authority. He's doing everything possible to not only be a voice and speak up for what he thinks the school is lacking in terms of NIL efforts and things like that, but he's also he's also doing his due diligence in every way to get the team prepped for him, or to get the team more NIL leverage. So there needs to be no question on Coach Traylor's efforts on the NIL situation. And it's been like that from day one. So yeah, I just don't think he's getting everything that he wants, which is why he brings it up pretty much every single time he gets in front of a camera. No Name says, how do you feel about our offensive defensive coordinators? We'll see. I've talked about the offensive coordinator ad nauseum last week. I think that there's potential there if we can just clean up some of the things that we did last year. We should be fine. Defensively, I think we should be good. I like our scheme overall. We have some players to lean on, but obviously that secondary is going to be something that we will need to sheer up. We got a lot of transfers in that should be able to come in and do a job, and really drive things home. But we just got to see. We got to see. Every year is a different year. Do we have a good kicker this year? We'll find out. We'll find out game one. I can tell you that much. Kermit says new Oregon D lineman was admitted to UTSA today per Javi. Can we get a name on him? Or is that like behind the scenes? Actually, what's funny, I talk to a lot of people about UTSA every day. I have not heard much about this Oregon D lineman. Just shows you Javi got all the connects, man. Shout out to Javi. Seth says people got to realize that football is a driving force. That football is a driving force. Football with money, that you can make it. You can. Oh, dude, I am butchering this comment. Okay, people got to realize that football is a driving force. Football with money that you can make can support every other sport. So why wouldn't we put a lot of resources in? I think what you're saying is football is from a sports standpoint now, football is what's bringing in the eyes and bringing in the attention, and the notoriety for football is going to uplift the other sports. That's 100% true. I think our investment should be more geared toward football 100%. I know the baseball guys will hate that. The track folks will hate that, but I think it's just the truth. We see that happen in other schools all the time. And I think we should probably listen. I can tell you this. Well, can't tell you anything for certain, but there are people that are in those offices, I'll say, that don't share that sentiment. I'll leave it at that. You guys figure that one out. Jake says this feels like the deepest team we've had ever in program history. Possibly. Possibly, but what does that actually mean if we can't? Um, I can't say. I don't want to put that out there, but we just have to go prove it. That's the thing. We have to prove how deep we are. We have to prove that we're able to utilize that talent in a way that's going to yield victories, yield wins, yield runs at conference titles, yield bowl game victories, and being in the dance late for postseason play. That right there is what's going to prove depth. I think we can look at names on a paper and look at stars on a sheet, right? We got this 2, 3, 4 star player and all of that. Yeah, we can do all of that, but it means nothing if we can't put it together properly on Saturdays. And I think, and a couple Fridays this year, but yeah, we'll just have to see. I do think from us on paper standpoint, it is very deep, but I'm just hoping that we can put the pieces together right. And I got confidence that Coach Traylor will do that. Chose one says, so if Coach Traylor is pushing for it, there must be friction toward Campos on his end. I don't know anything for certain. I'm not implying that. Um, yeah, I'm not implying that. I'm not. Yeah, that's not my implication. All I'm saying is, um, listen, you put two and two together yourself. That's essentially what you're doing here. And maybe I'll say maybe it is. But I think to go back to this, I do think they are mostly aligned. Um, but I will just say, just calling a spade. If you just look at the situation, like there probably is some tough conversations that have to be had about that, or that has occurred with that, right? Like him going and interviewing in other places. Yeah, obviously, I feel like some of that had to be because like he's probably like, dang, I'm not getting everything I want out of UTSA in terms of NIL support and some of this stuff. Maybe I should look at a Houston job. And then the A&M job, I mean, come on now. Like he's got to look at that job. That's a life change. That's going to change his life forever. Like so that job, you don't say no to that. But the Houston job also, um they're not struggling from an NIL standpoint. Not like we are. I think they can, from what I've heard, they can do better too, but they're not in the same situation as UTSA. I can tell you that much. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure there were some tough conversations about NIL between those folks. Johnny Bowens. So that's the new guy that's coming in, right? Johnny Bowens from Oregon. Let me check him out. All right, Johnny Bowens. Yeah, I've heard nothing. Okay. Oh, he came from Judson. You know what? This might be the same guy that I thought that I was talking about. No, because that guy was from another. He was not from San Antonio. He's from. I actually can't say because I think it'll give it away. Yeah. Well, good for him. Let's see if he has. Okay, so he was a interesting. He was a 4 star prospect coming out of Judson High School. He's 6'3", 290 pounds. They're rating him as a 3 star transfer prospect. Um, he dominated. Yeah, he completely dominated high school. He got to Oregon in 2022. Well, no, he signed 2022. He enrolled in January of 2023, and now a year later he's transferring. Well, he's going to have plenty of time to play, so that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So I mean, the situation sucks with Nick Booker Brown, but like D line is somewhere that we always reload at 100%. Hello, this runner says, "How is JT Clark doing? Still improving. Love that guy. I hope he's doing well, man. I haven't heard. I think they've been very, very close to the chest with his status and like when he's gonna play and what he's doing, and things like that. I haven't seen him. I have no idea what that situation is gonna look like. But man, I really, really hope that he's out there and he's able to play and able to not only come in and do a good job for UTSA. But when you go through a catastrophic injury like that, you want the person, the individual, to come back healthy and to feel good and be able to carry on with day to day life without ailments and pain. Folks don't realize how some folks sometimes don't realize how bad our bodies are, or how beat up our bodies are after football. It's insane. Like, you can't hear it. Let me see. My shoulder is so messed up. Every time I do that motion is a loud pop, 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 pop. Every time. Every time. This shoulder on the other side is not any better. And I play corner. So I took the least amount of contact on defense. And I have, my fingers are almost permanently jammed. I have scars everywhere. That's every football player, right? So when I think about a kid like JT Clark and him suffering an injury like that, you feel for him. You hope that he's okay, and I just hope that he's in a situation where his everyday life can not be impacted by that. I'm sure it will be once he gets a little older, but I just hope he's healthy. Kermit says, I feel like if Austin Clowns can make a big start for our basketball team, it'll make UTSA look like a better investment all around for companies. Possibly, but I think a lot of that too. I just think getting out in the city and building relationships, man. Like whenever we talk about these companies, you can't look at these companies as like like there are people in these companies that are able to spend the company's money, right, on marketing efforts. Like I'm sure all of these companies have marketing directors and people who are strategically like thinking about sponsorships and like who we want to be affiliated with. There are people that are doing that job on behalf of that company. The relationships with those people can go a long way with getting the company's buy-in for them to invest their money into into UTSA. That's what I mean by relationships matter. If we are getting in front of those folks and our presentations are done properly and we're well prepared and folks feel comfortable spending their money with us because they feel good about just UTSA and the people that they're going to be rubbing shoulders with. I'm telling you, man, like I work. I just think about what I do for work, and I see this stuff all the time. There are people, there are people that are representatives of these companies that we need to get in front of. That that to me takes a lot of work from folks from that office that they're going to have to do to go out and get those investments. Ricardo says feels like the strongest core of linebackers we've ever had. I think both Owen Pee Wee, Donnie Taylor, Danye take the next step alongside Martavius and the Bama transfers. It's funny you bring this up and you didn't mention Jamal Liggett. It's funny. I was asked on a podcast yesterday, give me a player who's underrated or just not talked about enough, and I think Jamal Liggett is one of them. I think he's come in and he's been a solid player, a great player who's been in an interior linebacker for us for years now. And I just feel like because some of his work is a little more grunt work, he doesn't get the notoriety that I think he deserves. I think it's good that from media day he's going to be a representative alongside Oscar and Coach Traylor. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. Seth says, bro, I'm driving, so TikTok sucks. Yeah, man, make sure you get to your destination safe, my guy. Gio says, thoughts on who might be at strong safety. I think one of the transfers would be there. Well, I don't know, man. Like I liked what's the kid's name? His name is, I think it's Elliot Davidson. I think he showed some promise. I like him. He's gonna be a senior coming up this year. You could see him you could see him potentially start. I think he caught like a big interception last year. You could see him. Obviously, Ken Robinson is somebody that you're probably going to see. You got to also think about some of the the new guys that are coming over that you'll probably see as well. Jamarius Lewis that came over from New Mexico. Um, let's see who else are we looking at. I'm looking at the roster right now. I'm missing one person that was a transfer from Stanford. Is it Jimmy Rourke? I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. Anyway, he could be somebody that starts there as well. Let's see. He said, Indra says, "Do you think UTSA going to win it all next season?" I think they've been very good being nominated this season. We'll see, man. I think UTSA will have a good season. I don't know. I said yesterday I'm hoping and expecting that we will probably be around at 7 to 9 wins this season. I would say the least our floor is 7. Our floor is probably less than 7, but I don't know. For me, 7 to 9. That's where I expect us to be, but we'll see. Who knows? Says this year we're gonna have. Want to see how good Trader can recruit and sustain his players. I think, yeah, I definitely think we're gonna see a lot more of his core people that he's recruited that's dictating the wins and losses from the team. But I think he's done a good job. You just look at some of the guys. I just look at the spring game and I'm like, yeah, we got a lot of talent. We got a lot of talent. If we can figure out that quarterback situation, bro, heads are gonna roll this year, 100%. Robert says, do we have the depth to beat Texas this year? I know we're not as talented, but is there a chance that we could upset them? There's always a chance. I'll never rule that out, but I don't think so. If I'm just calling a spade, being honest, I want us to play them well. I think it's a tall order for us to go and beat Texas. Texas is one of the best teams in the country. This is not one of their down seasons or anything like that. It's going to be tough to beat them. But you never know. You literally never know. I love us to do that. It'll be just huge for our program, but it's a tall order going into that stadium to come out with a victory. That's going to be a tough one. Post says upsets happen all the time, but that's a big mountain to climb. Yep, I think he's talking about the same thing. Gio says Elliott is a beast, 100%, 100%. Frank says every game is a fight, but what are your top 3 easy wins this season? Great question. Let's go look at the schedule. I'm probably going to wrap here. So if you got any more questions, get them in because we're almost at our hour mark. But I'll do this question, and then if you got any last minute questions, I'll snatch them up. So if I got easy wins, I'm going to say Kennesaw State, Houston Christian, and then it ain't easy from there on out. Easy wins. That's a tough one. I don't know if any of these other games are going to be easy. Because, like, when I look at the schedule, like, I don't know. East Carolina, like, are you going to call that an easy game? Right? Like, is that I mean, they were 2-10 last year. So let's be very clear about that. I guess you can say East Carolina. But you just never know, bro. Like that team, East Carolina they're just a team you just got to worry about. Like any given year, they can have a good season. So I don't know. But those would be my top 3 easy wins. Kennesaw State, Houston Christian, and East Carolina. All right. Got one more here from Glowster99. He says, I think our schedule, no Tulane, definitely helps. Memphis and UNT at home should be fun. If the crowd is there, the game I'm really nervous for is Army. Absolutely. So, yeah, I do think our schedule helps. Memphis and UNT at home will be fun. I'll definitely be at the Memphis game. Yeah, I'm going to show up at that Memphis game for sure. So I hope the crowd is going to be there. That Army game, I've said it on here 1,000 times. I know y'all are probably tired of me beating this dead horse, but I don't like us playing Army for one bit. I have no confidence in whenever we play that team. And we got to go to West Point. Come on, man. Come on. Army has been a thorn in our side for a while, and they just seem, they just seem to have our number, right? It's just weird. And then Juan agrees. Yeah, that's true. Army has had our number for the last few years, 1,000%. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap there. Hey guys, I appreciate you showing up. Make sure you smash a like on the video. It takes nothing for you to do that, and it really helps out the channel. It helps us grow the community. It helps get this to more people. Also, if you want to support the channel, join as a member. I'd really appreciate that as well. And then also, if you are new here and you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe to the channel and go from there. But with that being said, I am out. See you guys next week. Enjoy your holiday and be safe. Peace.